We're going to look at Jonah chapter 3 verses 1 through 5, and we'll begin by looking at verses 1 and 2 together. So starting with chapter 3 verse 1. Vayahi devar Adonai el Yonah shenit lemor kum lake el Nineveh ha'ir ha'gedolah ukara elecha et hakiriyah Esher anoki dover elecha. So chapter 3 verses 1 and partway through verse 2 are very similar to chapter 1, verse 1 and the beginning of verse 2. So we have Vayahi, and it was Devar Adonai, the word of the Lord, El Yonah, to Jonah, Shenit, meaning a second, we would say maybe a second time. We supply the word time there, which fits in context. Lemor, saying, all the way through here, is identical to chapter 1, verse 2. So kum, lake, we've got a hollow verb here, imperative, from kum, and then lake from halak, another imperative. Arise, go, el Nineveh, to Nineveh, ha'ir ha'gedolah, the great city, and cry. Now chapter 1 verse 2 has aleha with al, meaning maybe against, rather than eleha, to her or to it, but the meaning is very similar. So cry out to it, and then from here over it's a little bit different. It's different in that we get a description of what Jonah is going to proclaim. This is not part of chapter 1 verse 2. Chapter 1 verse 2 just says, cry out because her evil has ascended before me. Now he says, cry out to her, and then here's a description, direct object marker, cry out et hakiriyah, the proclamation, esher anoki, which I, and then we have an unusual kal participle of the root davar. Normally this is a piel, but here we have a kal, which I am speaking to you, or perhaps will speak to you. A participle picks up the context, and we can make it serve the context. And so we would say the proclamation which I speak to you, or which I will speak to you. So let's go back through the entire 2 verses. And it was the word of the Lord to Jonah a second time, saying, arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry to her, or to it, the proclamation which I will speak to you, or which I speak to you. Okay, let's move on to verse 3. Vayakam Yonah Vayelech el Nineveh, kidvar Adonai, u Nineveh. Note that we have Nineveh in one spot, and then a few words later we have Nineveh. It's not clear what the difference is about. It might be stylistic. There's a note at the bottom of the page that says that a few manuscripts actually have changed that ve to a ve to make it consistent with the other ones. I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's clearly Nineveh in any case. Hayata ir gedolah lelohim mahalak shiloshet yamim. Okay, so we find out what Jonah did. Here we have a vav with a patach and a dagesh forte in the first letter. So we know that we have a imperfect vav consecutive. And this is a kal of kum. And Jonah arose, vayelech, and here we have another vav consecutive, and because the accent has shifted this way, it changes the long e to a short e, sere to a segol. Other than that, though, it's pretty easy to see that this is a kal imperfect 3ms vav consecutive of halak, and he went to Nineveh. Kedavar, according to the word of the Lord. And Nineveh, the Nineveh, and Nineveh, Hayata, is a feminine singular proper noun, Nineveh, and then we have a third feminine singular perfect of Haya, Cal perfect. And Nineveh was Ir Gadolah, a great city, which we learned when God told Jonah to go to the great city. It was a great city, Lelohim. We might say literally to God. We would probably translate that before God. It was a great city to God or before God. Then we have a noun here that's based clearly on the verb halach, and it just means a walk or a journey. A journey of three. Really, this is a construct. This is all a construct package. A journey of 3 of days. We would just say a journey of 3 days. Meaning apparently it took 3 days to walk through the city. Maybe there was a lot of streets. It's not clear how big it was in actual diameter. Okay, verse 4. Vayachel Jonah lavo ba'ir mahalach yom achad. Vayikra Vayomar od arba'im yom uniniveh nehapachet. Here we have a geminate root, Vayachel, and it's a Hifil. You can tell because of, first of all, the prefix vowel is a qamets, and we see the E-class vowel. It actually shortens from a tsere to a segol because the accent has shifted because of the vav consecutive. So it's Yachel. In the Hifil, halal means to begin, and oftentimes it's followed by a infinitive construct, and so here's our infinitive construct. He began to do something. So, and Jonah began to go ba'ir. I think we would probably say go through the city or into the city. Literally in the city, with the city. Probably we would say through the city here. So Jonah began to go through the city. Mahalak, this is the word we saw in the last verse, a walk or a journey. Yom echad, 1 day. This is just our number 1. So 3 days to get through the city, however you go through it. He went through 1 day, and then it says, Vayikra Vayomer, and he cried and he said, Od arba'im yom, yet 40 days, literally yet 40 day, but we're talking about a 40-day period, so we would just say 40 days. Vanineveh nepachet. Here we have a nifal participle. It's a T form. Under the pay, we'd normally have a segol. This is pausal, and so it lengthens to a qamets. It's a feminine singular. And it's relating back to Nineveh. That's why it's feminine, because Nineveh is a feminine noun. It's a proper noun, but it's feminine. We have the root hafak in the cal, to overthrow. Since it's nifal, it's going to be the passive of that, so it's be overthrown. So he's saying, yet 40 days, and Nineveh is being overthrown, or we would probably put it in the future tense, will be overthrown. Again, we can make a participle serve the purpose of context, and the writers intended it that way, and that's how we can read it. So, yet 40 days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. So let's go back through verse 4. And Jonah began to go through the city, a journey of 1 day, or 1 day's journey. And he cried, and he said, yet 40 days, literally yet 40 day, but we would say yet 40 days, and Nineveh will be destroyed. Finally, verse 5. Okay, let's read verse 5. Vaya'aminu anashei Nineveh belohim, vayikra'u tzom, vayilbashu sakim, migadolam va'ad kitanam. We have a hifil of the root aman. The root itself has a nun in it, and so the ending here is just the shurek. So we have the yod prefix of a vav consecutive imperfect of a hifil. You see the theme vowel here is a hirik yod. of Aman. So this is a Hifil imperfect, 5 consecutive, and its third masculine plural. Okay, so who was it that believed? This is they believed. Anshe Nineveh, the men of Nineveh. This is a construct package here. Nineveh is proper noun, so this becomes the men of Nineveh. It's all definite. Belohim, in God. So the men of Nineveh believed in God. Vayikra'u, and they called. Remember, Jonah cried out or called, and now they're calling out. And they called a tzom, a fast. Vayilbashu, and so here we have a simple kal, imperfect, 3MP, of the root lavash. Lavash is to put on a garment. In the Hifil it means to clothe, and the kal it just means to put on a garment. They put on, and the implication is some kind of garment, sakim, with sackcloth. This is plural, although sak is the singular, with sackcloths, literally. Then we have Megadolam, from their great, and to. Ad can mean until, and in this case probably simply to their small. Katanam, from their great and to their small, meaning from the greatest of them to the least of them. So verse 5, and the men of Nineveh believed in God, and they called a fast, and they put on sackcloth from their great and to their small, meaning from the greatest to the least. All right, that's chapter 3, verses 1 through 5.